So we're going to look at bone markings. And as you may have noticed, looking at the skeleton in class, or just like, like touching your own hands or anything like that, you might have noticed that like there are bumps on your skeleton, and each one of those has a specific name. We're not going to name every specific one, but I am going to give you the groups of those names so that you can kind of start to look at the skeleton in anatomical terms. So there are two types of bone markings. There are projections. Sometimes they're referred to as processes. And these extend out of the surface of the bone. So if you think of the surface of the bone as like a continual plane, anything that raises above that plane, like similar to like what you would imagine like with a mountain or a hill, those are called projections. Anything that indents into the surface of the bone, that is called a depression. And so in your notes, you're going to notice a big, long chart. And so we're going to divide this up into projections, and then we'll go over the depressions. And then in each of these, there's in the projections, there's also going to be some subcategories to discuss. So first, joint projections. These are usually found at the epiphysis, and these are going to be where joints occur. So these are going to be where an actual joint surface is going to move against each other on the bones. So this is the category, joint projections, and we're going to start with a condyle, and this is a rounded articular projection. So you can see here we have that round section of the femur there at the bottom. Then we have heads. Heads have a rounded projection with then a stem coming off of them, and we call that a neck. So this is what separates it from a condyle, is that it has this neck and then this kind of ball shape. Then we have facets. Facets are smooth, flat articular surfaces. So this is what you would see on like a vertebrae, where you would have that flat surface that they can articulate against. Then you have the ramus. The ramus is like an arm-like projection where you have the articular surface. And that's going to round out our joint projections. Now we're going to look at ligament and tendon projections. And this is where we have attachment points for ligaments and tendons. So ligaments are pieces of connective tissue that hold bones together. Tendons attach muscle to bone. That's the difference between a ligament and a tendon. Ligaments are bone to bone, tendons are muscle to bone. So starting with a crest. So the crest is a long, narrow ridge. It almost has an edge like a knife. And then you can also have lines, which are a smaller version of this. That's just not quite so much surface area. We also have epicondyles. So these are raised areas on a condyle, and they're where, again, tendons and ligaments attach. You have a tubercle, which is the raised projections like here and here. Tuberosity, This is where you have a roughened rounded projection. And then you have the trochanter, which is kind of hook-shaped. And then finally we have spines, which are pointed projections. And that is the last of our projections. Now we're going to talk about depressions. So depression's job is to allow blood vessels or nerves to pass through a bone. So you might see a meatus. This is a canal or tube running through a bone. You also have a fossa, which is a shallow basin. These are usually going to be on the opposite side of a condyle. This would be something that would cup a condyle in order for the articulation to occur. And then fissures are slits. Then we have a sinus. A sinus is completely surrounded by bone. It is a space in a bone, and it does have openings to the surface of the bone, but it is practically encased in bone rather than being like a tunnel or a cut or something through a bone. And then we have a foramen, which is a round or oval opening into a bone. And then we have sulcus, groove, or furrow. These are long, like channel style depressions. And these are separated by size. I'm not going to make you know which one is bigger or smaller. I'm not worried about that necessarily, but I just want you to know that they're all kind of very similar in like shape. And then you can see that sulcus right there. And that is going to round out our bone markings. You can see we have 10 projections and 6 depressions that we have discussed. So just keep those in mind as we start looking at specific bones, because there will be specific bone markings that I'll point out in class that I'll want you to know.